Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name's Rhiannon Fleming, and I'm the Digital Engagement Specialist here at the Shaw. And today I have the honor of being joined by Kate Hennig, who is our Director of Artist Development at the Shaw. And I kind of stole some of her time to sit down in honor of International Literacy Day on September 8th. So we thought we could chat a little about process of playwriting or adapting, things like that, all the inside tips of a writer.
Right
So
on.
welcome, Kate. Thank you for making the time.
My pleasure.
For some of our viewers who aren't familiar with your work, maybe you could give us a brief introduction of your credits, your history, how you came to focus on playwriting and what you do now.
Right. It's funny. I've been writing in some form since I was very, very young. My mother kept storybooks that I wrote starting when I was about 5. And I wrote poetry as a teenager, full of angst and, rites of passage and so on. And I kind of stopped writing for a time. Didn't really have anything. I guess I had other creative outlets that I was interested in pursuing. And when I went and wrote my master's degree in voice studies at the Central School of Speech and Drama, I had to write a dissertation. And I was completely and utterly resistant to the very strict structural form of a dissertation. I was like, how can you put something as esoteric as art into this kind of container or box? So writing my dissertation, and then as I started to write, I started to get really excited about the way that the parameters and how strict they were. And I think of Anne Bogart, the director, the American director. She talks about the precision of acting within a container. That a director creates a container for an actor to create within, and the stricter the parameters of that container, the more actual creative freedom that the artist has inside that container. So thinking of the box and then what's inside the box. So the box might be rigid, but the inside the box is filled with imagination and freedom. That was my experience writing my dissertation, is that inside the very strict box, I actually found a lot of freedom and really, really enjoyed it. That long story then leads to, I was doing a play for Nightwood Theatre, and Kelly Thornton said to me, "Do you write?" And I went, "No, not really. I wrote a scene once. It's a good scene, but I don't write plays." So she said, "Why don't you send me the scene?" So I sent her the scene, and then she said, "Right, now you are in the Groundswell Playwrights unit." And it was a little bit like, no, we got your scene, now you're a part of it. So I actually wrote a play to go around that scene. That was my first play. That's how I got started writing plays. That was almost 20 years ago. And that first play was never produced. The second play I wrote, I self-produced at Summer Works. That was a play called The 11th David. I then wrote a third play that is a kind of what I would call an American play. It was sort of I gave myself a bit of a writing assignment after seeing Summer and Smoke here at the Shaw Festival.
Yeah.
And I wrote a play, weirdly, set during the pandemic of 1918. So that play was kind of moving forward a little bit at the Stratford Festival. And then in 2011, I started to write The Last Wife. That was the first of my plays about the Tudor queens, and that took off. So it was like that was my fourth play, I guess. And then so the Tudor queen stories, the queenmaker stories, that's The Last Wife, The Virgin Trial, and Mother's Daughter. Those all happened at Stratford. Those are three plays. I was very fortunately nominated for the Governor General's Literary Award for Drama for the second one of those plays. And I received the Carol Bolt Award for that play as well, for The Virgin Trial. And then my work at the Shaw Festival has been an adaptation of Oscar Wilde's stories for children, which was called Wild Tales, which is a little gem of a piece and became such a beautiful production, and a collaborative work with all the artists that were involved in it. Fantastic. And then TC asked me if I would like to translate and adapt Cyrano de Bergerac, which I was more than thrilled to do, and had the opportunity to do that a couple of years ago. Time is weird, right, with the COVID thing. So yeah. Anyway, writing. There you go. That was a really long-winded answer.
No, I love it. I'm still new, right? So hearing everybody's experiences and how they end up in places is extremely interesting to me, because it's never, a lateral or a straightforward. It seems that you take the winding path.
Gina Wilkinson, who was a fantastic actor and director and playwright who died way too young, said, "I'm standing on the train platform, and whatever train comes along, I take it." And I think that is the perfect analogy. Like, that's the perfect analogy for my career. I just go, you know what? If there's a job, I'm going to take it. That's the way it has. My career has led me, and I have not led my career. Simple as that.
So would you maybe credit that as how you get started with a new work is kind of whatever's coming your way, or how does your process start?
It's a good question. I think each play has its own way of starting. So I don't think that it's one way or another way. Each play kind of moves through you in ways that are very, very unexpected. First plays are often about some experience, a huge experience that you need to process publicly.
Right.
And sometimes first plays are good, and often first plays should stay in the in the room where they're written. But that's that's just as it goes.
And you don't know till it's written, right?
That's right, exactly. Yeah. Like my first play, I got a few workshops of it, but I'm really glad actually to have just kept it. Now it's I worked very hard on it. The people who helped me to work on it, I learned so much, but it doesn't need to be out there in the world.
Right. Interesting. I think we often find ourselves in the box of, you put this work into it and you push it. And I love listening to that internal voice of letting it be what it is and serving the purpose it needs to, if I'm getting that correctly.
I think so, absolutely. I think that the purpose that it needed to serve for me was both therapeutic in terms of I needed to process that large event that had taken place in my life. That was very important for me and for me as an artist and as a human being. And then also what I learned how to write by writing that play, or I started to learn how to write plays by writing that play.
Interesting. How would you define the process maybe differently between playwriting an original or adapting like you did with Cyrano or the other adaptations you've done?
Yeah, they're very, very, very different things, actually. Writing your own work is there's like for me, I speak only for myself. and my own experience. There's a lot of fear of not succeeding in unearthing the whole story, because you have to start somewhere.
Right.
And I'm not a storyboarder. I know I talked to Hiro Kanagawa when we did our academy last year about playwriting, and he like storyboards everything. So he knows exactly what scenes are coming next and all that kind of stuff. I've not ever written that way so far. Not to say that I won't ever, but I have not so far written that way. And so the way I write, I just kind of dive in, and I have a story. I know I have a story to tell. I just have no idea how it's going to unveil itself. So, so the fear is that it won't, and that it will stay, sort of in the clouds. Whereas when you're adapting something, either Oscar Wilde's brilliant stories, which you already know are brilliant,
yes,
or Cyrano de Bergerac, which you already know is brilliant, right? So that the pressure of writing a brilliant story is like, there is no pressure to do that. All you have to do is try to honor the story as best you can, that its originator, like you honor that. The process that I know is so difficult, they went through that process as well. They went through the very difficult process. So what I want to do is try to honor their process as much as possible.
I love that. Yeah. Let's see. How would you say when you're writing for the stage that how do you balance making demands of either your ensemble, your cast, or even the audience versus taking care of them?
I would say I never take care of them.
I like that.
Nor do I ask it's just not the way I write. I'm not provocative in a way that is very dangerous. So there may be people, I know there are plays, certainly plays that I have seen in the past, which I think really challenge both performers and audience members. I'm just not that kind of gal, like that's not my thing. So I just go, okay, I'm going to tell a story. Some of the ways in which the story reveals itself, I am shocked by.
Right.
I am shocked that those ideas or those thoughts or the way in which those thoughts are expressed come out of me. Because I think of myself as just a sort of a plain, ordinary person. And then sometimes the thoughts that come out of me, and probably, out of my subconscious, they can be surprising to me. But I don't think that anything I have ever done puts anyone at risk. Of course, you can never predict what might trigger someone. Never.
Right.
So that's just something you can never predict. So you just have to, and you can't edit yourself for that kind of reason as well. You can't try to make things safe for everyone, because there's no way of succeeding at that.
That's it. You'll end up bounding yourself in.
Too much. Yeah. Well, and to write, that becomes about I can't even think of the word right now. Anyway, it does become way too restrictive, and that's not the art that I'm interested in making.
Yeah. Interesting.
Censorship is the word I was looking for. So it becomes about self-censorship then. So you go, oh, I can't write about that, or oh, I can't write it that way.
Right.
And then your impulses and the opportunity for the subconscious to release itself through you and make some magic becomes stopped in the process of writing. And that probably is what writer's block is.
So do you believe in writer's block?
I don't know. Like, I think that I think there's always fear. I think there's always fear about exposing yourself and your ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But writer's block is something else, or the idea of writer's block is something else. The idea of writer's block is I have nothing to say. And I must say that in the last year, I have felt that. It's been very, very difficult for me to write in the last year. I have felt not creatively motivated to write in the last year and a bit. Oh, no, probably just in the last year. At the beginning of the pandemic, I did a few drafts of stuff that were already, plays that were already in process. But I haven't written anything new over the last year and a half. And I think that's because I don't know what to say. The global pandemic puts you in a place where, or puts me in a place where I don't think what I have to say is important, and that's a really difficult place to be for an artist. Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm struggling with right now. I'm really, really angry with the virus right now. I'm really angry because it feels like it's taken away part of my joy and the bliss that I feel in my creative pursuits. So I'm going through a phase of real anger about that right now.
That's it. I find that very relatable. I think, it's been a year of, or more so, of turmoil and not knowing where to turn. And for someone who's not necessarily as good at expressing themselves, I find that I internalize that, but also don't know where to go with it. Where do we go from there, right? So I can definitely relate to that feeling.
And I think there will be we will come to a place where we go, now we're rebuilding. Now we're rebuilding, right? But we're not quite there yet. We're still in this place of not normal. We're still in this place of treading water and not quite, we're not swimming yet. We're not safe. We're still not quite safe. So we can't just swim. We still are treading water.
Right.
I'm going to say I am doing that. That's what I'm doing. Other people, I don't know. I don't want to, sort of absolutely project that onto everyone. But that's where I'm at. I am treading water and I cannot swim.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't want to pose. There are some people who have found, a boom in this because their whole lifestyle has changed and that maybe opened up something for them too, right? But
I have a friend who's a psychotherapist who's like, hasn't got enough hours in a day.
That's it. People zooming in from all over to get a piece of their time.
Right. Yeah, their creativity and their practice is moving forward with, in all and wonderful ways. So
that's it. Everybody has different boats. Maybe we could kind of end off on a note of maybe exploring, do you believe that language holds power, and any, maybe the earliest experience that you recognize that words can change things?
Yes, I think that, the power of words, the relationship that I've had with words has been mostly as an actor and working with great texts. So, because I've been an actor much longer than I've been a playwright. I think that part of the reason that I'm a playwright is that I'm an actor. And being able to two things. I did a Martin McDonagh play called The Beauty Queen of Leenane. And that play, if you've never read it, it's like getting on a roller coaster. Talk about shocking. It's a shocking play for both the actors and for the audience. Yeah. And to have people so moved by the language that they are hearing that they yell out from their seats is the power. So that's one really joyful, exciting moment of the power of language, right? Is that it actually, that people actually erupt with their response to it. And as an actor, you have to stand on the stage and just, keep yourself completely masking the fact that how excited you are by their response. So that's one side of it. The other side of language is, or the other thing that I feel, I'm going to say three things, but this is another one of the acting, is when you feel the silence, when you feel absolute silence, in that there is no response to the words, or the response of the words to the words is so impactful that you can barely hear people breathe, So that those two really juxtaposed responses to words that are spoken out loud. Mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna do two more. So because they're about the response of people to words. So I had the great good fortune to play Hamlet at a university. I was a guest artist at a university for 3 months, and we worked on the play Hamlet. And I played Hamlet, and I also led the young the students in their examination of that play. I didn't direct it, but I was, a professional amongst these non-professionals. It was a very exciting project. So I finished the show one night and was leaving the auditorium, and a young man had waited for me until I had, taken off my makeup and got changed and so on. And he was waiting for me there. And he said, could I walk out with you? I said, yeah, sure, absolutely. He said, I've never seen Hamlet before. I was like, oh, yeah, what did you think about that? And he said, that's a really good play. And I was like, yeah, that's a really good play. And so he walked me to my car, which is about 10 minutes away, and I said, what did you like about it? And he proceeded to tell me the things that he thought were really good about this play Hamlet. And I'm like, yeah. And that's what language does to someone when they see it for the first time, right? Yes. Or approach it or experience it. And I had a similar thing happen to me very gratefully when I did The Last Wife, and I was feeling extremely nervous, anxious. This was my first real production of a play of mine. And it was at the Stratford Festival in the Studio Theatre. So the stakes were very, very high. And it was a preview audience, and I was walking out of the preview audience, and the response to the play had been largely and very positively from women in over 55, right? They love my writing because I'm a woman over 55, and it's relatable to them. Right. So this 17-year-old kid comes up to me. And he said, he introduced himself and said, you're the playwright? I said, yeah, I'm the playwright. He said, I've seen everything at Stratford this week, and that was the best play I've seen here. And I was like, You know, bigger than Shakespeare. Yeah. You know.
That's it.
But it was for a 17-year-old boy to come up to me and say, I love The Last Wife. That made me feel that the words that I am putting out into the world have impact. And that's
Yes.
the way that one can gauge impact in particular when it's not someone who you think your regular audience is, right?
Right.
That
Right.
someone out of the blue comes up and says, that meant a lot to me. And you go, wow, cool.
That's fantastic. What an impact. Oh, well, Kate, thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed being able to sit with you and get a little more familiar with your process and your style of doing things. It really has been a pleasure.
Thanks, Rhiannon. It's been great to talk to you. And yeah, everyone get out there and read something. Read
That's it.
something today.
Something, anything.
Anything. That's it. Here's a challenge. Read it out loud.
Oh,
Yeah, things are so much different when they're read out loud. Read something out loud. Read, even if it's a paragraph of a book, a novel, read it out loud. See how different it is.
well, challenge accepted. Tonight I will do.
Cool.
All right. Thanks, Kate.